2021 meeting of the Belmond Klemme School Board to order at the Belmond Klemme High School Library. The first order of it for the agenda would be call order and roll call, please.
Rich McDaniel,
Here.
Michelle Murphy. Here. Sharon Barkman.
Here.
Gary Beckman.
Here.
Ryan Meyer.
Here.
Myers Wicking.
Here.
Jim Swenson.
Here.
Okay, all present. We have all 7. Welcome visitors and school board candidates. So I didn't get any of our little green cards today. Do we have any visitors that would like to communicate with the school board? Hearing nobody. So any communications from either electronically or phone calls or anything?
There's none.
Okay. Then we will move on to amendment to the agenda or approval of the agenda. Is there any amendments?
There are no amendments.
Okay. So I would be looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
Moved. One of you want to do the motion, 1 second? You okay with second, Jim?
Fine.
Okay. We have motion second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I call for a vote. All those in favor of the agenda as it was given to us, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next one would be consent items.
No changes to the consent items, although you did get a supplementary list of board bills that should be on paper beside your places. Mostly minor things except for a couple big ticket items that have to do with our last construction project.
I guess.
Yeah. I think those are the final payments on last year's. I think that we were withholding some money until we got some corrections done. I think those are done.
I have a question on the transportation test at the Belmond Medical Center. We pay for DOT stuff?
You betcha.
We do.
Yep. Always have, yep.
Yeah, that's always been true.
Okay.
I think pretty much everybody does.
Move.
Motion second. Any discussion? This would be the time for.
Oh, yeah, I have to abstain from the vote because I have a conflict with 4E.
Okay, there we go. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I have a motion, I have a second, I would call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. And motion carries 6 ayes and 1 person abstaining. Okay, next we would go to reports. Business manager's report on the auditor's exit interview. Okay, Teresa, okay, she should be done by now, so we'll move on. It's about how long it's gonna take, isn't it? It's about how long the exit interview took.
It's a pretty short report this year, which is great news. So we had our audit, the field work was done the last week of August. This was the 3rd year working with Rochelle Thompson out of Hampton. This year she got to do both the regular audit and a single audit. Anytime an organization spends more than $750,000 in federal funding, they say, hey, that's a lot of money. We want to make sure everything you're doing is in compliance and that you're using that money for its intended purpose. So she did both of those. It meant extensive testing of all of our internal controls. She was happy with things that she found. She was very pleased with the procedures we have in place, the documentation, the way that the business office is organized, the way all the records are organized. Years past, it's been a little bit tricky getting all the documentation on credit cards. She went through every single receipt, every single transaction for 3 months, no problem. So that alone is just kind of a, yeah, you take a little sigh of relief after she's done with those. I'm not expecting any profound findings. Segregation of duties, we will continue to see, I'm sure. We do everything we can with that to try to make sure the same person isn't seeing a process all the way through in the office. Realistically, it takes 5 to 7 people to get that off of your report. You have no need for 5 to 7 people in our business office, so we'll take that comment. I'm still expecting the nutrition fund to have an overall negative balance of about $16,000. Despite the fact that we have about 130,000 in current assets, most of which was cash and intergovernmental receivables as of 6/30. And again, that's just because of that OPEB, the IFRS liability and the insurance liability that we have to show on our books for retirees. When the auditor's on site, her primary focus is really doing those internal controls, looking through the documentation, making sure the records are in order. Now she'll go back to her office, work out all the final balances, the final reports, and she will come back and report to you in person in December. So you have that to look forward to. One thing of note that I want to actually just say thank you. This last year, you took a look at the fixed asset policy and increased that threshold from $2,500 to $5,000. That enabled us to still capture all of the really big expenses for equipment, but without having to spend just a ton of time going through all of those smaller purchases. That really did make a difference this year on our time, and I just thank you for doing that and getting that passed. Did you have any questions for me?
And Board President Daniel and I were present for the exit interview. Mr. McDaniel, any comments on what you experienced?
It was a pleasure working with our auditor. I will stress that our auditor said it is a pleasure coming to our school because of what our office staff, how they do everything, and they made her job extremely easy. So it's on the ladies in that office. They made it really smooth for our auditor. And honestly, the exit interview from my first one, I was called to ask to go to, and took forever, and basically doomsday to this one that took about 5 minutes for us to get done with. She couldn't find anything wrong. So she was very impressed with the way our staff has everything. She said even organized for her. She didn't have to look for anything. Everything's completely organized. She was very impressed with our staff again this year.
That's awesome.
So,
Good report.
yes.
Good job, ladies.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Teresa, while she's standing there in the hot seat.
Hot seat, yeah.
No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next would be school improvement conditions of learning surveys.
We've got our TLC instructional coach, Justin Meyer, who's dropped in tonight.
And Christine too.
Christine, no, Christine is, I hadn't known why Christine was here. I thought she was just coming to hang out with us.
I needed backup.
Do you need the screen for this?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, I'll log out.
Let's watch YouTube.
I was looking for Netflix. I'm sorry.
So the main thing that we're going to do is just talk a little bit about, I guess, our professional development plan for this year, what's already happened at the beginning of the school year, and kind of where we plan on going in the future. So now I'm going to hand it off to Christine.
Okay, so on his first slide, we're just sharing that we have taken part in our Inspired Leadership training, and in my opinion, I will say it's amazing. Love every minute of it. It's putting a light of who I am and who I can grow to be. So it's really fun for me. And I've heard positive comments as well from other staff that has taken part in that training as well. We have had our full day with the TLC team, and then we've also had the half-day training. All the other staff has had that, and there's been a lot of positive comments. And we're starting to hear the language within that training in our school system. So it's great to see that actually taking place and seeing that growth within our district. And then we'll continue our learning. October 11th, we have a full day of PD that will focus on that and probably other things as well. And then January 17th as well, we'll continue our growth process and continue down the path of success for our school. So
We're not quite sure what the 11th and 17th will look like yet, because the Inspired team is doing a good job of not pre-planning everything. This isn't really like a pre-packaged deal that like you do August 10th, August 19th, and the 11th and 17th all look the same. It's very much dependent upon what we feel we need as like a TLC team as well as administration, that they take our ideas and our thoughts into account for that.
And then we also gather those ideas from staff as well. So it's built to make everybody grow and show some success with that. So within our training, we each have our own ELI is what it's called. It's an energy profile debrief. And I don't think this is any one person's.
No, I just honestly Googled it and I found it. So.
But each one is independent. You do it independently and it shows what your energy level and your stress reaction would be in with different, you take a survey and then you answer as truthfully as you can pertaining to the questions that are given to you. And then your energy profile is given to you. And a lot of times you really have no idea what it means until you go through a debrief. And then the person that goes through the debrief with you explains it in great detail. And then you're like, oh, I got it. This is where my strengths are. This is what I can improve at. These are my goals. So with the debrief, I really dig this stuff. This is amazing to me and I get a lot of energy from it. So hopefully others in our district do as well. So the debrief was about 30 minutes. And then I just had my individual coaching yesterday, and that was as amazing as well. And we were only supposed to go an hour, and mine ended up to be about an hour and 20 minutes because my coach and myself we just kept talking. She's like, I really want to be good with the time, but let's continue. I'm like, great. And then I know.
Yeah, Tiffany and myself, we did mentor coaching yesterday. And the difference between individual coaching and mentor coaching is individual coaching would be just Christine over like a specific issue that she has. Mentor coaching for Tiffany, the elementary instructional coach, as well as me, is more for how can we coach people that come to us with issues to kind of improve their energy level. And the thing that I really like about it is it's not just saying your energy level is low, let's get your energy level up. It's like more systemic than that. And it's more of like understanding where that person's coming from and then trying to help them towards higher energy levels.
It's supporting that growth.
Yes, is what it is. In the energy profile debrief essentially is saying, okay, here's where you're at currently. What are some things, what are some tips and strategies that you can implement to increase your energy levels from some of these lower energy levels to these higher energy levels?
And I'll say through the coaching, we talked a lot about my professional life, but then also delved into my personal life and how one can affect the other. And then at the end, the wrap up was basically, okay, so this is what we've talked about. This is our goal. And then we worked through the main points and what was a good goal for me. And I'm a big picture, like I think of a year at a time. And she's like, okay, you are very goal oriented, but you see big picture, not little things. You want the end goal, which is what drives you. She said, your goal, because you can't turn it down within a week. She goes, that's impossible for you right now. She said, your goal is to find a good goal to hit at the end of a month. She said, because day by day is not you. Week by week is not you. You have months at a time that I always digging for. I'm a creator and I dig for success and make it better. I gotta make it better. So those are types of things that she gave me, and it gives me a focus on how to improve myself, but also improve my kiddos that I work with. And that's super important to me.
And then with that, kind of building off of this, one thing that we talked about at our last TLC meeting is it does seem right now that the group that's gotten the most, the group that has gotten the most training on this is the TLC and the administration. that we were the ones that were there the whole day. We've kind of been trained at a deeper level than the rest of the staff. So now what our goal is to try to take this to the rest of the staff and get more staff buy-in. And one way that we're trying to do that is we're actually doing a book study. Every Wednesday, I think we've got 8 more book studies left. We've got 27 participants now on an Inspired Evolution. It's essentially like ESDAC, which is the company that does this, the Inspired Leadership team wrote a book. So there's 9 different chapters on that. So we did chapter 1 last night, and we had, there's some conflicts, but we have 27 participants, and we had a really, really good conversation. And I think that it's honest conversation that we need to have, but it's not just a complaint session. It was much more like transformative than that I was really pleased that we talked about like our current realities that we have in terms of climate and culture. And then it very much, I felt those energy levels towards the beginning of it. I definitely felt like a little bit more of those lower energy levels that we have going on here. But towards the end of it, after we had these conversations, it definitely turned more towards like, especially level 5, which level 5 is all about how can we work together to achieve something bigger is what that one's all about. So we definitely got to more higher energy levels there. So that's something Wednesdays, 3:45 to 5 o'clock. It kind of bounces around between the elementary and here, since we have teachers of both staffs that get together, which is another positive thing. Because anytime that we can bring both staffs together, I think is a big positive for our culture, just because 2 separate buildings sometimes leads to 2 completely different cultures, which is difficult.
And the books were free.
Yes, that is true.
Great.
That is very true. So we've got that going on. Another big thing for TLC that we wanted to speak on is TLC is now like the gatekeepers of teacher quality. And it's essentially funding that has been there that in the past hasn't really been used. Is that a fair and accurate statement, Dr. Fraser?
Inadequately.
Inadequately used, sure. Okay, and the basic premise is essentially teacher quality funds are funds that we have as a district that are used to pay teachers for hours they put in outside of their contract. So what we're doing here is like this book study, for example, it is an option for teachers to receive teacher quality funds for the hours that they put in. And it's just per diem. So it's essentially their salary divided by 100 and however many days there are divided by hours is how that works. And the TLC, what we've done so far is we're gonna have 2 like teaching workshops. We actually have one that we're going to dive into a little bit here on August 17th. The next one's on February 21st. So those are like full days where essentially, and one thing that I've got to say is we've leveraged our staff, and we've got a lot of people here that are awesome that know a lot about like specific teaching strategies, and we've leveraged those. So we essentially had like 12 different sessions, 11 of which were done by our staff and led by our staff, which is fantastic. We did go through the AEA for one because we had one leftover session, but that happened there. We also are going to have 4 book studies, one of which is our Inspired Leadership. We have 3 others that are kind of to be determined because it's partially based on like the culture or the climate, I should say, at that particular time, what is needed. And then with that, there also is an application process that we have. I won't get into the nitty gritty, but teachers can, if they have something else that they want to do, either in small groups. We do have a little bit of individual funds. Not a whole lot, because we really wanted this to be a collaborative process, that whatever teachers were doing, we wanted them to collaborate with one another, because our main goal this year, honestly, is to help improve our climate and culture. So we figured as much collaboration with that, or the more collaboration, but next thing, to kind of recap a little bit with our August 17th TQ workshop, we did do a little exit interview, and this is just some of the data that got pulled from there. I won't necessarily go through all of those. It was very well received. We had quite a few teachers that were there. Some of the qualitative data, not necessarily the quantitative, was a lot of teachers just said they appreciated the fact that the people that were presenting were our teachers. Because like our teachers are the experts for our kids. And it's very difficult sometimes when the AEA comes in, not that they don't know their stuff, because they do. They just lack that kind of connection to our kids and our specific circumstances.
Well, and then if they have questions too, you're always there.
Sure.
And they can go to.
Yep, absolutely. And we're gonna have another one of these that's probably gonna be set up very similarly. It was cool because 48% of people who were there said they were at least somewhat interested in possibly presenting at the next one, which was good. Other than that,
great.
Are there any questions that you all have with any of this? Any questions for us?
Yes.
So you have 38 attend this, we only have 27, just went some regular.
In the book study, correct? Yes, correct, yeah. This was a little bit more, this was actually like the day before the official contract took place. So this was the day before teacher contract started. Yep. And then this is outside, this is on like Wednesdays after school, so there's just conflict sometimes that happen there.
Are you observing any tangible results from these processes that you've been?
That's a great question.
Yeah, no, that's why I asked.
So I know that we brought this up at TLC as well. That one thing that we do have, like our 3 main school improvement pillars, if you will, that we want to improve climate and culture, we want to increase student success, and we want to integrate technology. One issue that I think that we have as a district is we have no data that's connected to those. And we talked about this at our last TLC meeting. What we would love to see as TLC is to do this energy leadership, or this ELI, multiple times throughout the year, because that can be something that's tangible that says, okay, here's the actual hard evidence that we have of is our overall culture and climate improving. Because they actually give you down here, they give you like a score on a number scale, essentially, and that could be some data. Not that it's the be all end all, and not to say that like it's always going to be up and up and up and up, but it's at least something to work with.
So your answer is nothing definitive quite yet.
Correct.
We have seen some, or I'll say I have seen some of the strategies taught within our day of August 17th
Yes,
being utilized within classrooms.
that's a good step.
I would say I've heard people use the language,
Yes.
like my energy level is this, how can I get higher energy levels? I've heard the language being used. I know, and when Dr. Fraser spoke with the Inspired Leadership team, that was one of the things that they said that we could do right now to help improve climate and culture, simply start using this language.
And I have heard people, when they say, well, I need to do, I need to help you. It's not like, and then they're like, oh, not I, we. How can we help each other? How can we support each other? So it's turning away from the I and making it into a we, which to me, I think that's a huge step. Because then it takes the focus off of you and it's, we are working together, collaborating, working for the benefit of all, so.
We're having great hopes for this program, honestly. As
So
well.
am I.
We really are.
Can I ask one follow-up question here?
Yes.
Do we have anything in place as of now for board involvement in this process?
We have not scheduled yet, but we purchased individual consultations with every board member.
Okay. I just know as I spoke, we're here, but we spoke to the rest of the TL, like we're speaking on behalf of the TLC team. That was a question that got brought up.
Yeah, when the board approved this in July, they said they wanted to be part of the process.
Sure. Absolutely. And we welcome that, absolutely. I think that in order for this to be effective, I think it has to be district-wide, everybody. So I know like the day that we had our half day, it was certified, non-certified staff both in the same room together, which I think is something that probably happens less often than you think would.
Yeah.
Or perhaps should.
I appreciate your enthusiasm, and I think that's gonna go a long way.
Last thing that I will say is, and I know we brought this up in the TLC meeting, this is a culture change, and if this culture is going to change, it's not going to be 100% buy-in year one. Like if that's our expectation, then we're setting ourselves up for failure. It's like if we can get the TLC team and then like a handful of teachers that are off the TLC team to buy in, and maybe some that are on the fence, not necessarily bought in, but not completely opposed, then the next year our job is to get those people that are on the fence bought in, get some of those that are off the fence, onto the fence, so on and so forth, until like hopefully 4 or 5 years from now, we essentially have an established culture.
It's a process.
It's a long, hard process, but it's worth, the ending is worth all the effort.
Yeah.
You can destroy a culture in a matter of hours, minutes, but it takes years to rebuild it.
Yeah.
Well, we're really excited that staff thought that this would be a really good program to undertake. It didn't come from us, Sure. And I'm excited about that. I think that gives us a greater chance of success.
Right now, I think it is TLC mostly, and then hopefully, we get a little bit more staff buy-in there. Because we haven't spoken to the entire staff. We've informally spoken to the entire staff. We don't have necessarily data on that. It's mostly TLC team right now.
And we're trying to spread the language. We're trying to use it with people that we work with as well. So hopefully that will spread as well.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. King, for your job, Justin.
Next on the agenda, under 5C, would be Superintendent's report. That's on page 39 of our packet.
Okay, let me log in here.
My page 39 is conduct annual meeting. Just something.
All right, if you look up on the screen or you find it, you can find it on page 39 in your packet, but this is our preliminary enrollment count. Obviously, this is not final. We won't do a final count until October 1st, because that's, in Iowa, you do enrollment one day a year. It doesn't matter if your enrollment goes up or down. October 1st is the only day that really counts. And I'm pleased to tell you that our enrollment is largely stable. We are actually +2. If you look at the very bottom line there, we had 684 students last year, 686 this year. Obviously, that could change between now and October 1st. But we're really pleased with that because we graduated 60 students out of last year's senior class, and we brought in only 45 kindergartners. So we're expecting a net loss of 45. So actually, we've been, if you look at those numbers of the right-hand column and then drop down one line for the left-hand column, you'll see that most classes went up by a student or two just about at every level. And a lot of that growth is from our Latinx population. We did not see a lot of change in our Latinx population last year when the pandemic was on, although some school districts, Clarion, Eagle Grove, both experienced that. Between a hostile political climate down the southern border and the virus that was going on, they saw both those other districts in Wright County saw big departures of those students, and they came back very strongly too. And both those districts are up in terms of enrollment. So Wright County is looking very good in terms of student enrollment right now. Questions, comments on that before we go on? The elementary last spring did a conditions of learning survey. It's usually part of their standardized testing in the spring. And for the most part, the elementary got some good marks on that, but I'm going to imagine, Mr. Young, you're probably planning on talking about that a little bit.
Yep.
So I will not steal your thunder. I'll just move on to say that, make a couple other quick comments. The Employee Relations Conference is coming October 12th. I will be attending, and you're welcome to come with me if you'd like to ride down with me. There's one other thing just came up yesterday, and that is I went to a superintendent's meeting for the Top of Iowa Conference, the other area superintendents. And we were talking about one of our big concerns is the teacher shortage that's plaguing Iowa right now, and the fact that there were a number of school districts there within our conference that do not have full faculties this year because they could not hire all the teachers they needed. And I expressed a concern about that there are some districts out there that are not showing the courtesies and ethics of respecting the contracts that exist between districts, that after into this summer, June, July, and August, they're recruiting teachers that are under contract with other districts, highly unethical practices. I'm disappointed to tell you that when I spoke to the dozen or so other superintendents of the conference, they said, well, that's the way we do it. And said, you just got to do what you have to do. As one superintendent said, it's a dog-eat-dog world. Wow. And I said, it may be that, but we do not have to resort to the behavior of canines in order to function. And I said, folks, we went into education because we believed in kids. We believed in the future. So if we feel that way, don't we care about all of Iowa's children? And should we want to work together with other schools to make sure everyone is successful? Unanimous response I got was, nope, we only care about our districts. So, and which tells me that I am getting too old, that baby boomers and their ethics no longer belong maybe in this profession, I'm not sure. But it does tell me one other thing, and that is we need to work very hard at how we're going to recruit, how we're going to retain our staff here. And because knowing that there's going to be competition out there, and there's going to be some people that are willing to do whatever it takes just to make sure that their faculties are in place. So it's a changing landscape, and it's not a pretty landscape necessarily. It's like, and when I wrote to the director of the Board of Educational Examiners, I said, are we entering the phase of Mad Max 5 teacher recruitment?
Don't you think that kind of correlates with where we are in the national standards?
Absolutely.
If we're playing that kind of dirty pool, what's the end result? It's not good.
No.
And it's reflected in our schools and how they teach the kids.
At the same time, some people need to rise above it. Would you agree?
Yes.
And I don't intend to change the way I do things or ask my administrative team to change the way we do things here. But we'll have to adapt to the new normal and work within those confines too. And that's my report this week.
Thank you. Any more questions for the superintendent? Hearing none, we'll move on to the principal's report. You want to do rock, paper, scissors and find out who's going to go first, or however you want to do that?
You're just as busy as I am. So I don't have a conditions of learning report like he does, because we have to find, I can't get access to it, so still working on that. We are, the big weeks next week, prepping for homecoming, lots of things happening. And, I think probably what's happened in the past will be very similar next week. We have our queen and king candidates, we have our attendance, have pep rally starting Monday morning at 8:30. And then we'll end the week with the parade and the pep rally and the big football game. And then Saturday will be junior high will have a dance for an hour and 45 minutes. And then the high school will have their dance. We've been working really hard. One other thing, I have a wonderful instructional coach who works side by side with me. We've been working hard on PBIS. I'm trying to get that get a little bit stronger in the high school compared to what it has been in the past. We're working on getting interventions in we're going to take the FAST test that the elementary has taken for years. We're going to take that so we can have some similar data across between the buildings, so that we can have some intervention groups to help with those deficits, such as in reading comprehension or different strategies, math or whatever we need to work on to make those ISAF scores a little better in the spring. So lots of hard work going on there. The teachers are working hard, the kids are working hard. I have fortunate enough to have two of them with me. They decided to come and join us tonight. But yeah, it's been a great start, great 5 weeks. Midterms Wednesday. We'll see where we're at after that. So, yeah, it's been good. So, any questions for me? I'm not a big person that gives a long report, so if you want me to do a long report, then might not happen. Anybody have questions, comments? Perfect.
Okay, so I have a brand new computer, and I haven't, oh, there it is.
There it is.
There we go. So I just have a couple of preliminary things. Good news, we are 3.5 weeks into the school year. We've added a few kids. Just to comment on what Dr. Frazier said, we have both seen, and I think CK has too, nationwide, we had a lot of ghost kids last year. Kids that just kind of disappeared. Not necessarily from us, because we kind of always kept track of our kids. We knew where they were for the most part. But there are a lot of kids out there that just kind of went off the radar. Never attended school. We did have a young lady come up who we know has not been in school for 18 months, and she's in 3rd grade before they came here. And so it's kind of hard to know until we get there, but we started out solid. We had a few students that we didn't expect came. We lost a couple. Those things happen, but it's been pretty much what we expected. Our numbers are almost exactly what we had projected in the spring.
How do you know what grade to put them in? I mean,
Well, if they are a non-EL student, we talk to the parents. They usually come in, and I almost always meet with them because they usually bring the child in. So I want to get to know them and make sure that I know who they are and get a face to a name. And we just talk to them. Where they've been in school, where they've been at, did they struggle? Most of the time, it's by age. Once in a while, we'll get a new student, an EL student who is maybe 6 or 6.5. But if they haven't been in school, they're going to go to kindergarten. We're going to start them there. And same with, we don't get many that have not been in school though. Most of the kids that come here have been in school wherever they landed, in Texas or Colorado, or we had a couple from in New York. But most of them are local. Most of our new students now are siblings or cousins or whatever students we already know. Ms. Guerrero and Tiffany Landon do a great job of connecting with our students. So we just never know. So we just know there's kids out there, so we won't never be surprised if kids just show up. That's just part of the deal. But we're doing some nice things because we're able to do more outside stuff now. We booked a show for NIAC in January. They're doing a live show now for our kids. We have community members that paid. It's like $600 for 300 of our kids to go. So they just gave us a check and we send them. We're doing kayaking this week out at Lake Cornelia. Our 5th and 6th graders are doing kayaking, and we have roller skating coming in January for 2 weeks in our gym. So,
In our gym.
they all tell me it's fine. It doesn't hurt them. Or I know when I first started, I said, "You're gonna let your roller skate in the gym?" We checked it out and they said, "Nope, it's all good." So the main thing is we did get our conditions of learning survey back, which was our 3rd through 5th graders. That's what they look at for our school, and that it's a little hard to see, I know, but I can share this document with you as well after the meeting. Our number for adult-student relationships, which is basically, do students feel connected with our adults in our school? And that's from me down to teachers, to paras, to cafeteria staff. Our average is 88.6. The Central Rivers and state average are about 80. So again, a good number for us. Boundaries and expectations, we're about around the state average, just a titch above. And that's, do kids know what is expected of them, and do we follow through with that? And again, ours are a bit above average. Emotional safety, we're a titch below that, but when we look down at the numbers, it's kind of a weird gauge because actually this is a negative thing. So they look at kids that feel safe, but then when you look at the numbers, they ask kids, were you called names or made fun of? The kids that were done that had that happen like 2 or less times was like 85%. So it's a weird gauge. I don't really understand it. Physical safety, again, we're about at the average. One of the things I like to see was the student-student relationships. How are students getting along? How do they feel when connecting with their friends? And our score was, again, well above the state average and the local average. So very pleased about those things. And again, it's broken down. You can look at the various questions. There was about 33, I think 35 questions, something like that they asked kids. So it's a relatively fluid number because it's not that many questions, and it's 180 kids or whatever it is for those 3 grades, 170 kids. But again, very pleased that kids think we take care of them, we keep them safe, they connect with adults, which is obviously, if we know they connect with an adult in the building, they're going to succeed. That's the number 1 criteria across the country. If a student says they have at least 1 adult in the building that they can feel safe with and connect with, off the charts, they'll be successful. If they have a student who doesn't, then they struggle. That's the biggest factor. So that's where we're at. But again, I'd be glad to share this with you. I know it's kind of hard to see the numbers on the board, but I can share this document. It's not very long. It's about 5 or 6 pages. And we haven't lost anybody. Everybody got on the bus the first day like they're supposed to. We had a few tears. Had a few of those things, but it's gone well. And honestly, having more kids ride the bus, I think Rick or Jack have been out front at the end of the day, and it's gone much, much smoother because we just have fewer people picking kids up at the end of the day and dropping off. Because there are more kids riding the bus. And a lot of kids walking on the bikes.
A ton of kids walking right there.
A ton of kids walking on the bikes. It was good.
Which will change as the weather changes a little bit.
Absolutely.
But it does every year.
There's asked Corey for another bike to buy another bike rack. A lot of space. That's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Where would you say the pedal back is warranted or the cause for concern? What's your big thing? What's your
I think probably from these questions, the fact that we have kids who feel like other kids pick on them. Not bullying in the sense, because they really don't talk about that here, that's a whole separate thing, but just that we need to be more proactive, I think, and I think we're trying to be with our counseling sessions this year in talking to kids about, it's just not acceptable to make fun of other kids. And again, I think to Jim's point earlier, it's indicative of the environment that we live in. People are, kids hear what their parents say, and I think there's a lot of people that are just not determined they're going to be angry and mean with each other, and that's something we work really hard at. And we do, as you know, every day, our first 20 minutes a day is mindfulness lessons, talking about being kind to one another, talking about what they can do, how kids are feeling. Christine's group and the younger students do what they call zones of regulation, which is kids actually self-identifying and then also talking to each other about how they feel when they walk into that day. Are they in the red zone? Are they in the blue zone? Or the green zone? Which comes with different things that they then work on as far as how they deal with those students. And having an extra counselor in the building, and again, thank you for that. Having Caitlin there, K4, and then having Heather Danberg in 5-8, I know that gives us an extra half a person a day, and that makes all the difference in the world, because then we can staff that and kids can always see somebody. And one of our changes that we've done to PBIS this year is if a student has a problem and needs help right away, either because they're not following directions or because there's an altercation, they're sent directly to the office and we're dealing with them immediately and trying to be proactive that way. And I think that's been good. Teachers are doing that. Teachers are taking advantage of that. We're also doing what I call the wow sheets, which is kind of the opposite of sending the office. They come to the office with a wow, something they've done really fun, and that's become quite popular with the kids. They really like, because I do their names on the announcements. If they get a wow sheet, and I meet with them and talk to them about what they saw or did. Usually it's I helped the teacher out, I cleaned tables, I picked up trash that didn't belong to me, I cleaned up somebody's mess when they were, they dropped something and I helped them clean up. But some of it's just, I'm kind in class, I'm quiet, I'm working, I'm not disrupting, whatever it is. We just try to reward that positive, or reward that good activity right away. That was a long answer.
No, that's great, thank you.
I have to reiterate the extra counselor. That's helped a whole lot. Because Mr. Albertson gets sometimes stuck on scheduling and that kind of stuff, and it's nice to have, and it's also nice to have a female in the building as well in the counseling department. So I wasn't here when that happened, but I appreciate what you did when I wasn't here. So.
Any more questions for either one of our principals? No, I think the board is happy with your reports. So thank you, both of you, and thank your staff again. You still got more?
No, I just want to get out of that.
Oh, okay.
He's locked in. Magic.
I think I kicked him off.
You bumped him.
I wanted to kick off.
You did bump him down.
Okay, we will be down to 6. Conduct the annual meeting. 6A will be review of the board treasurer's report, examine financial accounting books for fiscal year 2021.
And the specific report is on page 46 in your packet. Right after, immediately after that information on the annual meeting. So basically, this is a formality, but you approve it to say you're witness to what the closing balances were at the end of the fiscal year.
There's a negative balance there, but she already told us about that.
Tracy, you want to comment on the negative balance there?
Sure. So, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we are still seeing about a $16,000 deficit in that nutrition fund. It's a little bit better than where we were last year, but that's just kind of slow progress there. Our federal reimbursement rate for the meals, where we have all the free meals, is a better rate than what we usually get. But we have so much packaging that we have to do because everything's broken down to individual servings for the kids. That supplies really did eat up that additional reimbursement. I believe this year they don't have the individual packaging though, right?
Only for the salad.
Just for the
They don't
salad
want
bar,
kids
okay.
digging into the
Okay.
veggies and stuff.
So hopefully we can see that do a little bit better, but it kind of yet to be determined for the current year.
Hasn't it always been negative? That's just the way it is.
So it went negative in 2015 because that's when the standards board for accounting said, hey, you need to start acknowledging these liabilities. They're kind of imaginary liabilities. You know, if Hyper's ever went under, then we, in theory, would have to pay people that retirement. And then just the liability for retirees being able to be on our insurance after they've left the district.
So over $100,000 in cash, but still we're in the red.
That's right.
But due to
Yes.
accounting procedures.
Easy peasy.
Well, let's not blame the accountants.
Procedures, not the accountants, the procedures.
Right.
Actually, the US Postal Service has the same issue. They're required to account for all of the future obligations
Right.
for pensions of people with the US Postal Service. That's why they're always in the hole.
Yes.
And everybody says, how can they always be in the hole? I spend so much money at the post office. But that's because they're making them account for stuff that's in the future, and there's just no way to ever catch up.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody have any comments? Has everybody had a chance to review it prior to the meeting or during the meeting here?
Move
Good. Move to approve. I have a second. Any more? Okay. Hearing nothing more, I'll call for vote on the review. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries. Next one will resolution of depositors.
Depositories there, and that's basically where we put our money. And the board authorizes the maximum amount that can go in each bank. And Teresa is requesting that we increase the deposits in First State Bank from 5 million to 8 million. Teresa, you want to comment on that at all?
Sure. So, with interest rates having gone down so much, we're actually getting better interest from First State Bank here than what we are with our investment account.
The bottom one there is
Which is yes. So the way I see it, wherever we can get the most interest is where we want our money. Any dollars that we bring in, just add to our spending authority, free spending authority. Let's put it right there.
And even if it's close, I would say we would like to have the money locally where we can use it to build the community.
Absolutely.
Great.
Move.
Okay.
Second.
Second, this is a resolution, so it's roll call vote. So I would call for a vote.
Rick McDaniel,
Aye.
Michelle Murphy,
Aye.
Sharon Barkman,
Aye.
Gary Beckman,
Abstain.
Ryan Meyer,
Aye.
Myers Leaking,
Aye.
Jim Swenson,
Aye.
Motion, the resolution carries. Next would be to appoint the district's attorney, the board attorney.
And we've been working the last 4 years with Ann Smisek, and she's been very good, worked very well with us, and I'd recommend reappointment.
So moved. Second?
Yep.
Okay, I have a second. Any discussion? The only discussion I have is I think she's done an incredible job for the school. She has done a very good job for us. She's very knowledgeable in the areas we've had to use her in, because I've been involved with several of those with you.
Yes, you're right.
And it's, yeah, she's she can be feisty when she has to be, and that's good. You want an attorney that can be feisty when they have to be, not one that's feisty all the time.
What? No, you want an attorney that also calms you down when you think you want to tear somebody a new one, and they
And
say,
she does that too.
calm down. Let's not do that.
She actually does that too.
I know she does.
Yes, she's good at what she does. So we have a motion, we have a second. Anybody comments, questions? Hearing none. I call for a vote. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. All those opposed say no, or nay. Motion carries. Appoint representatives to the Iasb Delegate Assembly.
This is a non-mandatory subject. Last couple of years, we haven't had anybody that was interested in attending the IASB Delegate Assembly. But this is an opportunity for small districts to have a voice in your representative organization, IASB. So if there's somebody that would be interested, I'd encourage you to speak up that you'd be interested in attending that delegate assembly on Wednesday, November 17th, the day before convention.
Once was enough.
And I am not allowed to attend in your stead.
No.
I once saw a superintendent get up and try to talk at one of those things.
Really?
They told him, sit down. I think they were a little more polite than that, but they wouldn't give him much time to speak. Just for school boards.
Okay, we haven't had anybody the last couple of years, so I mean, if we don't have anybody, that's okay.
You have to go the day early, obviously, for the delegate assembly.
If Rick wants to go in my stead, that'd be fine.
Oh, if he does.
He said if. I heard the if. I heard the if. The rest of it I didn't really hear, but I heard the if. So.
Are people planning on going to the convention this year?
Well, I was going to ask that a little later when we get to the
all right.
discussion items, but yes.
Some are.
Okay, if nobody's interested, we can just move on. Table that one, there's no motion or anything, so then we're down to action items. 7A, high school band and choir trip to New York City, New York, May 31st through June 5th, 2022.
We have Ellie Hinman.
She's here.
She's here. Okay. Ellie is coming here, and she has been informed that the board will likely not accept this idea of this crazy New York trip.
My
But
gosh.
she's going to try to convince you otherwise.
Yeah, I never had one when I was in high school.
So Ellie, if you'd like to speak to the board.
That
Really
many years
taking
ago?
too long to get there, but
Horse and buggy, that's
I want to go as a chaperone.
Me too. They need board chaperones, right?
They need more chaperones. Here they go.
you're on that bus.
Oh, can you imagine riding that all the way?
Oh, no, we'll fly.
I've
I'll
done
be
that.
there.
I've gone all the way to DC a couple of times.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Allie Hinman, and I'm a junior, and I am the high school band and choir student representative. And I'm here to talk about our band and choir New York trip for 2022. Good evening. I'm here to share some of the details of our band and choir trip with you guys. Our trip has been postponed since 2020, since the outbreak of COVID. For our trip dates for 2022, we depart on Tuesday, May 31st, and we will return Sunday, June 5th. As we have done prior to COVID, the band and choir will perform at the Klemme and Belmond Memorial Day services on Monday, May 30th. Some of our features of our trip include 3 nights at a Hampton Inn and Suites with breakfast included, and we will have security provided each night at the hotel. Our 3 main group meals are at Gale's Broadway Rose, John's Pizzeria, and Ping's. We will visit Chinatown, Little Italy, Staten Island Ferry, the 9/11 Memorial Museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, Times Square, Central Park, Rockefeller Center, and we will tour Radio City Music Hall, among many other attractions. We're attending 2 Broadway theater shows, Aladdin and the Blue Man Group. And the purpose of our trip is educational, and we're going to have the opportunity to participate in Broadway classroom workshops. The band is going to perform on the Intrepid aircraft carrier and the choir at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. My understanding is, since it's so close to Memorial Day, we're doing patriotic music, like we play the Army and Marine music. It's a lot of fun music. This year, we're going to be able to make all of our payments online to the travel company, They can make payment via debit cards, credit cards, which both have a 3% fee, or they can pay via ACH, checking account, or e-check for no additional fee. We're also going to have two fundraisers through the school, one this fall and one in January to help with our costs. And they're all pooled and split evenly among the students. Here are the student costs, which depend upon participation. For 30 to 34 students and chaperones, it's $1,749 per quad. 35 to 39 students or chaperones, $1,579 per quad. 40 to 44 students and chaperones, $1,449 per quad. 45 to 49 students, $1,349 per quad. 50 to 53 students, $1,274 a quad. Our current COVID rules for New York City currently requires individuals have proof of receiving at least one COVID-19 vaccine to visit restaurants, fitness centers, and indoor entertainment, including all public museums. Additionally, Broadway theaters require individuals to have proof of being fully vaccinated, which is 2 weeks or more from their second vaccine dose. And these rules are currently in place through October 31st of this year. We held a poll sometime recently this week. Currently, there are only 19 students who have said yes to this trip, 16 students who have said maybe, and 34 who have said no. Approximately 15 or so students have not responded to this poll at all. Since the trip is educational and we perform to the public, we have to make sure we have enough students to have full ensembles. We will have to make a decision in the coming weeks of whether we are able to proceed. Thank you.
So what is your fundraiser this fall? What's going on?
Our fundraiser this fall, I don't think we've had it yet, and I have yet to be told what our current plans are for fall fundraisers.
How many students?
Right now, to my understanding, like the minimum is the 30 to 34. But we'd obviously like to have a lot more because for band and choir, there are certain sections you'd obviously like to have a lot more students for.
If there's a reluctance, do you know what the reluctance might be caused by?
The cost, I know I have heard from many of my peers that if they say yes, but they are among the few that say yes, the difference between 30 to 34 and 50 to 53 students is almost $500. And that's a lot of money to a lot of families. So. And I think, to my knowledge, the cost has gone up a little bit because of COVID restrictions. When we planned our 2020 trip, it, I think, was $100 or $200 cheaper.
So you think that the cost is an impediment for some of the families?
I do think that. And I know a lot of people, it's a state rule now for the fundraisers that we all pool the money together and split it evenly among all students. And a lot of people have not done the fundraisers at all because if they do all the hard work, they will only get a portion of their hard work.
Fundraisers are scheduled period, though, right?
Sorry, excuse me.
You're gonna have the fundraisers.
Yes, we are having fundraisers.
Regardless. And let's
Usually-
see how that turns. That might change some things.
Usually our fundraisers include something like popcorn. We've done like baked goods, stuff like that for the fall. And for January, it kind of varies.
Has there been any talk about approaching the Booster Club for funding, for assistance?
I have not heard anything, but I can bring it up too.
That might be a good idea to help with some of the costs.
And I think it's been hard to find chaperones because it is a 24-hour bus ride.
I was on the last trip. I went as a chaperone, and I would go back. Even with the 24-hour bus ride there, the 24-hour bus ride back, it was an amazing trip. It was every place we went, people commented on our students and how respectful they were, how polite they were. I mean, it was nice. Listening to our choir in the cathedral was something that I will never forget. Our band performing on the aircraft carrier, something I will never forget. Having all those kids seated 9/11 Memorial, again, something I will never forget. It was an amazing trip. You were there, Mark, you know,
Yeah.
you can talk to it.
Very, very nice.
I think you and Katie would be willing to go back again sometime.
Well, we need experienced travelers. Dr. Fraser would be one. Mark.
So
I
it's
don't
just,
live so far.
yeah, I mean, we can make sure our students can get there. And it's really nice. The one cafe, it's awesome because small towns have a lot of people who are amazing in music and they think they're gonna have a career in music. You go to this cafe and the waiters and waitresses perform there. And some of them are some of the best singers I've heard ever. They're still waiters and waitresses. They're still waiting to break into it. And that's kind of why they do that. You know, you may have this dream, but it's gonna be hard work. You know, we wanna show our kids that you can accomplish it, but there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. And some of our best areas in our school are our musical areas, our bands and our choir. They are amazing for the size of our school. And this is kind of a reward every 4 years.
Probably need a little more time with the restaurant where they sing and dance and
Yes.
stuff, because the kids don't want to eat, they want to just watch, and then pretty soon it's.
Then all of a sudden it's time to go and nobody's eating their food. So, but
Need
no,
to go
it
basket.
is, yes. And I think families could possibly be scared about COVID yet. You know, what's gonna happen? It's all up in the air yet, so it's scary, but I do think it's something that needs to be planned and it's something we need to accomplish.
A lot of these things in the trip are definitely once in a lifetime experiences. I have heard, rumor has it, once we tour the Radio City Music Hall, you get to meet Rockettes and you get to take a picture with the Rockette. And they did a huge Christmas show, spectacular, and it's just so much fun to watch all of them. You get to see all of them. And these Broadway music classes, there's these professionals in New York City teaching all of us small town Iowa people all of our new music and stuff to do. Because we've all had Mr. Stittsworth and Miss Allen, and I love them to death. And I'd also love to hear from more people. And even Mr. Stittsworth himself says that he learns so much stuff every year from all these people we learn from.
Why do you have to know in a couple weeks where you're not? Is there a cutoff date?
Yeah, I believe our first payment of $100 is due the 24th, so next Friday.
Well, hopefully your fundraisers will be successful and the families won't have to come up with the full amount and more families or more kids will want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I would call for a motion.
Sure.
I got two people calling for a motion. Jim, you move, you second? Okay, we got the motion. Any more discussion? No? I would ask for a vote then. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Hey,
Good job.
but good job.
You convinced
I
everyone.
think you actually turned it around.
I hope you can too.
Next will be B for action items, and that's state financial report. Annual transportation report. That was on page 62 for everybody.
If I can find it. After all this trip information.
Here we go.
Yeah, each year in the September meeting, we approve state reports. There's a cover sheet that's there on page 61, and then the transportation report is on page 62. Now, do not look at the bottom line, or do not assume the bottom line is the important line in this transportation report, because it has to do with, if you look at how many students are being transported compared to how many miles they're operating, that's what is driving the cost up for that. So realistically, it's the route net operating costs is what you need to focus in on. And you'll see that our costs this year are this past year were very consistent with the previous year. Teresa, any other comments on that?
Yeah, so I don't know if you remember from last year, but I talked about 2020 and I said, if we put 2020 up in a lineup of the next 10 years, it's gonna be the one that sticks out like a sore thumb. We definitely see that. We just had lower costs, miles, everything was just different. Like Dr. Fraser just said, we've asked parents, if you have the ability to drop your kids off at school, please do that so that we have fewer people in the buses. And so that's really what drives up that cost per pupil, is just that we went from 265 to a little under 200 kids actually on the buses each day. Otherwise, overall, this is, kind of just following our trend line that we would expect to see. Non-route miles are still about a third lower than where they had been back in 2019. Makes perfect sense during a pandemic year, because that would be our field trip miles, that would be professional development, and obviously we're not able to do as much of that as we have in years past.
This report has already been submitted to the state, so you're approving it retroactively here tonight.
We love that, don't we?
Do I have a motion to approve it? I have a motion from Ryan. How about a second? Second from Mark. Any more discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. The certified annual report, or CAR.
And this is, Teresa, this is basically the same thing they've already approved.
It is exactly the same thing that you already approved.
That you are for the second time tonight approving the ending fund balances for June 30th.
And we're still 16 in the hole.
Yeah, I don't know. Have we got an explanation?
I couldn't find the whiteout. I was looking for whiteout to take out that little negative, and I couldn't do it.
It's still in the hole.
This is definitely the big picture. I mean, we've talked about a lot of the details as the year's gone on, but this just lets you know where we ended. General fund, you can see, is up about $360,000 overall. In part, that's just due to the fact that we bring in that extra cash reserve to back the spending authority that we get from our special ed and our EL deficits. Activity fund is sitting in really good shape, and that's in part due to our boosters and in part due to the fact that we were able to make those transfers from the general fund into activity. So it's great to see that. Capital projects, we ended up with a higher balance between the SAVE and PEPL, but that's because we had the 1.8 million in bonds, in bond revenue. Over the next year, we'll get rid of most of that and lower that balance for you. Did you have any questions on these?
I'd be looking for a motion. So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next one would be special education supplemental to the CAR.
Okay, this is on page 64, and you're basically going to see this report twice as well. But this is the report that shows what our ending costs were for special education. And you'll see that there was a significant increase in our special ed. This had some things to do with students in and out. This can vary significantly from one year to another. It's hard to keep this number consistent, but it has to do with students of varying needs coming in and out, some of which need additional adult help. And we saw an increase in paraeducators working with some of our special needs kids, and that drives up the cost. Teresa and I have some concerns, and we will be spending more time. This report really just crossed Teresa's desk within the last week or so. Is that a fair statement, Teresa?
Yes, this would have been the 13th.
So, and it was higher than we anticipated. So we're going to be spending some time investigating this further. Our first meeting is tomorrow, actually, to see if we can find a root of some of these costs. But
so if you don't mind, I have a few comments to add.
Yeah, please do.
One.
I was counting on that.
Perfect. Okay. So special ed, as we already know, can be a little bit of a beast. I'm just going to go over here. I feel we're standing behind everyone. It can be a little bit of a beast. Now, as Dr. Fraser mentioned earlier, we have count date 1 day a year. Special, it's the same way, it's a different day. But anyway, count date is 1 day a year. So between fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 21, we have a decrease of $40,000 in receipts. But it's because of the way that those counts are always lagging by that year. So in fiscal year 20, we served 82 kids. The year that just wrapped up, we actually served 101 kids. Now, we don't see those receipts come in until next year. So next year, when you see this, there's going to be another $120,000 more in receipts directly from the state that we didn't have in the current year to meet our needs. As Dr. Fraser mentioned, we had more paras because, again, more kids, you need more staffing. We had 4.5 FTEs more of para hours this year. We had a half FTE for additional teacher time. And then once you add in just the regular, about a 2% salary increase, you know, you really, between those things, you see those salaries and benefits really bump up. Sometimes we have kids who need to travel to Mason or to Ventura. Yet we happen to have had more of that last year, so we have another $42,000 in travel expense. So each individual thing isn't necessarily significant, but by the time you put it all together on one sheet, that you see that deficit rise real quick. As Dan mentioned, we're definitely this is an area where we do want to keep our eyes and just make sure that our kids are getting everything they need, but that we're also being fiscally responsible at the same time. Did you have any questions on this report?
You know, to me, it's a moving target. It's always different, and what Patricia just said about what we spent here will be given back to us next year. So it's kind of an overlapping wave effect to me. And it doesn't concern me. We're taking care of kids. We're taking care of kids that really need the help. So, again, prudence is there, but it sure doesn't surprise me, and I'm not alarmed by it.
And we're taking care of them well.
Yep.
I can attest to that we do, that there are some special needs kids who live in facilities here in town that they have issues where they live with these students. When I come to the school, I will come to the school and find out from their teachers, from the staff, how do I communicate with them if I have to go to their residence. They don't have issues with these students here. There aren't issues with most of them here. So things are being done right here. Okay, so we are doing a good job. Any other questions or comments? Or I guess I should look for a motion first. Motion to approve, Jim. Okay. And a second?
You did it.
Second, okay. Any more discussion? No? I'll go for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Carries. Now we're on to C. School Budget Review Committee Supplemental Aid for Special Education Deficit.
So this is the same number you just saw, the special education deficit. But now the board needs to approve the ability to tax back for that. Most school boards in Iowa tax back for this. There are a handful where some paranoid boards worried about taxes and so forth like that do not tax back. But Iasb highly recommends you do take tax back for this because this is all spending authority that affects your general fund. If you don't do that, why then you have to steal the money out of the general fund and steal it away from the regular educats because you can't take it away from special ed. Yes.
Can I just make one clarification? This isn't actually saying, yes, we're going to add this tax to anything. This gives us that spending authority. So there's no money coming with this, but it makes it easier for us to operate. Like Dan was just saying, we don't want to be taking from our general fund spending authority. This later on, when we get to the spring, that's when you decide on the actual taxes. This is spending authority.
So moved.
A motion, second?
Yes.
A second. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next is the COVID-19 masks and vaccinations.
Well, I just like to when this ruling came down from Des Moines that that masks were could no longer be banned in public schools in Iowa, I assume you're all familiar with that. I said, well, I should put that on the board agenda so the board can talk about it. And then I've learned over the course of this week that all these school boards in the metro area and really all across the state are having these meetings to standing room only crowds. I thought, what did I get us into tonight? But obviously we're not dealing with that too much. I mean, Council Bluffs even brought in several teams of law enforcement to control the crowd in Council Bluffs, but Council Bluffs is very used to that, so it's not a big surprise in Council Bluffs. But right now we are seeing a rise in COVID numbers across the state. Right now, the rolling positivity average statewide is 21,000. And we haven't seen that number since about January 12th of last year. It was on the sunset side of that big surge last December, January. Now, interestingly, this surge this year is being driven by the younger kids. The biggest age group is age 18 and under. At this point, I think it would be, my personal feelings are that it would be premature to make a sudden decision about masks because we are not experiencing massive outbreaks within our school at this time. And much as we're very concerned about it, we've taken a more proactive approach than any other school in the area when it comes to masks and protecting kids. But right now, I just don't know if there's a real distinct need that's standing out that says we need to make a mask. And with that said, I'll turn it over to the board to discuss.
First off,
Well, it's under action item, so somebody has to make a motion.
You don't have to.
We don't have.
You can die for lack of motion.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it.
Here's my stand on it, okay? So a federal judge comes out and makes this decision. I think the case, I've read the case and stuff, some of it, and I think a little bit of it was weak, that they were pulling on emotions and heartstrings and stuff to make this. But the state's gonna appeal. I mean, the governor's already come out immediately and said the state's gonna appeal. Okay, so let's say there are schools, districts that have gone ahead and went back to mask mandates already. Okay, so they've gone back to a mask mandate. Everybody has to wear the mask. Okay, in a couple of weeks when the state appeal says, if it's overturned, now all of a sudden, whoops, you can't have mask mandates again. So we're gonna tell all the staff, all the students and everything, if we do it right now, if we were to do it tonight, you gotta wear masks. And then in a couple of weeks, all of a sudden, we're gonna switch and no mask mandate again.
you think it'll happen that quickly?
I think it'll be within a couple of weeks.
It could. See, the Court of Appeals could issue an injunction immediately to stop the order from the federal district court.
Yes.
When he said, you can't ban masks. And so it could happen very quickly. The governor could file that. The Court of Appeals could immediately come down with a stay order, staying the decision of the federal district court judge, which means we're back to where we started until it's ultimately decided.
But just to clarify, it's not banning masks. It's just banning the mandates to enforce masks.
Oh, no, we
So,
can.
because we still have people wearing masks.
Oh, yes,
That's
100%,
encouraged.
yes.
That's fine.
That's why I didn't understand about this in them taking this court, because Iowa never banned people from wearing
No,
masks.
absolutely not.
Iowa just banned mask mandates.
Right.
So, and honestly, in my personal opinion is, if you want to wear a mask, please wear a mask. If you feel more comfortable wearing a mask, please do so. I want you to feel comfortable, you know? And I know the school is working really hard to make their staff and students feel comfortable with that, and making sure students aren't teased or staff or anything for wearing masks. You know, I deal with people all day, every day that feel like they should wear masks, and other people that, you know, there's two sides to this, and there's nothing in between. And there have been riots all over this country at school board meetings discussing this issue. They're having bad riots at school boards across the country with us. So
I think it's called our new normal. You're gonna see people that wear masks and you're gonna see people that don't.
And
And people are intelligent enough to make
I guess I'm
their
good
own
with that.
decision.
If you wanna wear a mask, wear a mask, you don't. Until this thing gets nuts again.
Stay home.
Then we have to make the decision. You know, right now, we're pretty good here, you know? What if it isn't? What if it takes a spin, then we'll have to do something, and until then, I'm good. You know, everybody has the right to wear a mask if they want. You know?
I think that if this gets revved up again, people are just naturally gonna do what they think is right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think we need someone saying, you have to do this or else, but I might be nuts right now.
I just love the arguments that there are out there, pro and con, because, you know, Gary and I and Dan, we grew up in the era of polio.
Absolutely.
Was there a thought even to not do it?
No.
Not one. Everybody got a polio shot. It was just done. Now we've moved on to this, and now it's a battle, it's a fight. And, you know, I had one person say to me, well, I don't know what's in it. Well, yeah, neither do I. But Jonas Salk had a petri dish, an incubator,
Yes.
and a microscope, and he developed the Salk vaccine. Today, they said it was made too quickly. Look at the equipment we have to do this with. It's unreal. The computerization, the machines, the testing.
I got my Salk vaccine on the sugar cube. We all lined up, I maybe told you the story. We all lined up in the elementary building. Every single kid in school lined up, and we all went through and got the sugar cube. I'm still addicted to sugar cubes to this day.
That's why you have those in the office. I always
That's right.
wondered why we have a box of those in the coffee room. Now I
In any
know.
event, sugar cubes, we did it 3 times. We got three shots of the Salk vaccine, and nobody ever talked about that he cooked this out of the petri dish and then dropped it on my sugar cube, you know?
Well,
And it worked.
it's how society has morphed, I guess.
That's
For a better word. But it kills people. But there are other things that kill people. They don't do a thing about heart disease.
Yeah,
Kills more
smoking,
people than this
all
has
these
done.
bad things we do.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess anybody that wants to wear a mask and the kids want to wear a mask, let them wear masks. I'm sure the devil not gonna say no.
Well, if we had a huge turnover in the positivity rate here in this particular school district, at that point, I think we ought to revisit what our policy should be.
I agree.
I don't know what that policy, I'm not even articulating what I could think it could be, but I think we ought to, that's part of our responsibility at the direction of our superintendent to develop a policy that everybody can, if they want to stay home, they can stay home. And then we would have to look about going online again. And those that want to be here can be vaccinated and wear the mask. They could be in person, or, you know, who knows what that policy might look like. But I'm saying, until we are faced with that dilemma, because usually there's a little lag time and all of a sudden it starts to spike, and then, whoop, guess what? We can have a really quick
It
meeting.
could potentially be at a point where we may have to call a special meeting.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, that's
You know, and I know you're all very much okay with that, and we all understand that. It just, this is so fluid that, I mean, by Monday, our numbers could be way different than they are right now. So, you know, you never know. But I just think, I agree 100% with our superintendent that it's premature right now to make that decision.
And as of right now, we're still back to school like normal, like 2019, correct?
We are.
Yeah. That's great.
Okay, just moving through my report, I will mention that President Biden has announced that everyone that is, all employers that have 100 or more employees have to vaccinate their employees, or the employees have to submit to daily testing. And we have about 110, what do you think, Thelma, about 110 full-time employees?
130.
130, yeah.
We're gonna have to go 30 people.
We gotta dump 30 people that fast?
31.
31.
98. We have 98. I just rechecked.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I negative test on a weekly basis.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah,
All right,
reported.
I'm mistaken.
There's some of them are daily. Is it corporations? Something, no, I just think it's some policies that have come out
Yeah.
daily,
This says on a weekly
but
basis.
not, the government didn't say that.
Okay. But right now, we're not reacting to this. We're waiting for the rules to come out, and we could be a month waiting for the rule, 2 months waiting for the rules to come out. So we're not getting our endings in a bundle about it right now. It's just,
Or if he ever remembers even saying it.
yeah.
Sure, naughty.
Sarah.
My point of view.
So you all need to start thinking of how we're gonna deal with this, because I will be honest with you, I've had 2 school employees talk to me about this already, that have told me flat out, I will not be vaccinated and I will not be tested.
We're not a hospital.
Well, again, it could be 2 months down the road.
It could,
Everything
so,
can change.
so just, I mean, I just want you to guys to just think about this and you know, I know hospitals are, trust me, I know hospitals are struggling with this too.
There.
And the federal government, what they're doing is they're tying it to federal money,
Yes.
you know, so, and
And about 10% of our budget is federal money.
yes.
I mean, a normal year.
And there has been some talk, that, okay, so somebody does, all this comes out and you fire somebody. And, you know, I've had people outside of the private industry say, fine, they can fire me, I'll collect unemployment. I know there's been some talk at the federal level that you will not qualify for unemployment if it's because of COVID or lack of taking vaccine or getting tested. You will not receive unemployment. I mean, they're talking about that too. So, you know, there's a lot of ifs and ands about this, but I just want you all to kind of think about where you stand on this and how, what we're going to do when these rules come out. And they could totally, again, it's so fluid, it can totally change, but, I'm not real interested in losing any employees as hard as it is to get employees.
But if we lost 31, then we wouldn't have the mandate.
I mean, how long if we had 31 people mysteriously quit and then, you know,
Go on
we
a cash
hired
basis.
31 people, I mean, how long does that paperwork
Pay
take?
them in cash.
It takes months to get all that paperwork in.
Please don't.
But is this a choice that we have had? Is this something that we can even debate and make any dent?
Yeah.
It's
Probably
just gonna
not.
be,
It
Well,
may,
that's a big question.
we gotta
right
wait and
now.
see what the rules
Because
say.
we're subject to OSHA, so
Yeah.
if this is under the guise of OSHA, which it appears to be, why then, that basically has the weight of federal law that would have to comply
May
with.
not have
And that's being fought up in Washington DC about that. and
Some
everything.
back room in the basement.
Yeah, there's battles going on with that right now too, and we don't have any power over it. I mean, I know like hospitals already have to, if an employee comes down with COVID, they have to report it as a workplace incident. You know, OSHA comes in and hospitals, care centers, OSHA comes in and looks at it as a workplace incident and investigates it. Which I know OSHA, they don't have enough personnel to put on top of.
Personnel for 35 years.
Yeah, they don't have enough people to take care of this on feet on the ground.
They have.
I know.
So
Basically,
they're way overworked. So this is gonna be a very fluid and
Yeah,
tough
someplace,
situation.
someplace, we're not doing, birthing babies anymore in hospital in upper New York because the maternity nurses said, we're out of here. We're not gonna work here now. So now the babies are born in the back. No, I'm sorry.
I know some hospitals are losing patients because they went right with that protocol. And everybody had to be vaccinated to work there and stuff. And I personally have a friend that was going to one hospital, won't anymore because of that hospital's decisions.
Let's
So,
move on. We don't, this is all up in the air.
Speculation.
Yeah.
okay. So down to discussion items.
You're all aware that Coach
Yeah.
Howard Dorman passed away 2 weeks ago. And his funeral, or about 3 weeks ago, and his funeral was 2 weeks ago. And his granddaughter approached me and asked if the board would have any interest in naming part of the softball complex in honor of her grandfather, whether it be the dugout, the bleachers.
The fence. I brought up the
Eerie.
fence. I brought up the, I thought that would be. Well, you have to have some choices.
I'm all in favor of something in his honor.
Absolutely.
I am too.
Um,
How many Hall of Famer softball coaches do we have in Belmont?
Pardon?
How many Hall of Fame softball coaches do we have in Belmont, or basketball coaches for that matter?
I don't think.
One.
I guess I'm in favor of whatever the board decides to do.
Couldn't
But I
we do
think
more
it
of
should
like
be
a
something significant.
softball diamond
Yeah,
under?
that would be,
Yeah.
yeah.
And be careful,
It is already a named field.
it is
Okay.
named after the
I know
McLaughlin
that.
family name.
That's the whole complex.
Yeah.
I thought about
But
that.
it's a field. I think the word was field. Yeah.
You know, the word is.
So I want to be sure we don't tread on
I-
inappropriate ground here.
I feel the same way, and I thought the same thing, that, but it's the field, that's the whole complex.
I keep thinking his spot was the dugout.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that was that's where he holed out and yelled at all the girls. Whatever.
I don't care, I strongly feel that we should do something. And
Should we get input from somebody else?
we've had discussions over the years about naming things, because there's only so many things you can name, but like Gary just said, one.
Right. So if the whole complex is the McLaughlin,
Blair Field,
what,
Blair Field.
Field,
okay,
yes.
can't we just name the softball part of it then?
I don't know how you can do that and distinguish between the field and the diamond that's on the field. It's all part of the same thing. That's my suspicion. I think that would be I helped write that agreement with the McLaughlins when we
Yeah.
bought that for half price.
Then you didn't do a good job.
So we have Ferris Field and we have Mike Long track.
In your
You should have knew this stuff was coming.
And then the stadium's separate also.
A.M. Nelson Stadium.
Yeah, old Doc Nelson.
Doc got his name.
Smoked cigarettes
He
right
was a
along
good
the.
smoker, wasn't he? It killed him. He killed emphysema got him too, by the way.
Stand there on the sidelines
And
and smoke
smoked
cigarettes.
Well, took care of the kids when they got beat up. I took him to
And
those
we
games.
named a stadium after the man.
No. The field house.
The press box.
Press
Oh, the
box.
press
The press box. Yeah. Yeah,
But he was a lovely old man. I liked him.
he was a fun guy. He was a good neighbor, a good buddy of mine.
Well, I think we can do better than just a dugout.
Oh, I would like to.
This is Howard Dorman's dugout.
I don't
Whoopee.
know.
I think I would check into that McLaughlin thing. Read the fine lines that you printed.
You know how long it takes me to find that? I got buried a long time ago.
Oh, you got second.
We have Ferris Field and Mike Long track. How do we differentiate? That's all
Well,
the
we
same
didn't
facility.
get the land donated.
Right, that's true.
The land is one thing and the track on top of it something else, but see, the field is still the field. The ball field is the ball field is the ball field. That's what I'm having a difficult time.
Okay.
See, it's still dirt and turf. There's no difference between whether it's a ball diamond or whether
So it's the
football
buildings
field.
and the structures.
Yeah. I think it's something improved. I think it's gonna have to be some improvement on the facility that we would name.
What about the concession stand?
I think that's an idea. It would be visible to everybody who came into the
Right.
complex.
Right.
You can put the
See his
name
name.
on the street side of it.
Yeah, we could do
Everybody can see
that,
it.
yeah.
I would like to eat.
Huh?
I would like to eat.
Boy, he did.
I don't know. Yeah.
See, I associate him more with the dugout though than I do
Me too.
concessions.
Yeah, I sat behind that thing. And
Well,
Birds
and that's
swear.
fine, but I just, it just, I just don't think that's a big
Well,
honor.
okay, the granddaughter suggested the dugout?
She did, well, she just said, she said, could you name something like, the field, the bleachers, the dugout? And I think she was just throwing out ideas, that's the way I interpreted it.
Yeah, okay, but
So we can't do the field.
that was something on our mind, we can't do the field.
This might be way out there, but what if we named it like Avenue? Like the parking lot, what if we named that like an avenue after it?
Howard Dorman Avenue.
It might be a lot, you know, way
Parking
out
lot.
there in city codes and.
As long as it's on our property, we can name it anything we want.
Yeah, and put up a sign for anything you want for it. There's a couple of roads in town that
You could
not
put a
everybody in
sign
town knows
on,
public or private property and they named them.
you could set a sign up, be it on the fence, be it on the concession stand, be it on the bleachers. Howard Dorman, home of the number one.
Why not, why not a sign?
What's I'm
It's in
saying?
the home of Howard Dorman,
Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame
Yeah. that's what I'm getting-
softball basketball
Yeah.
coach.
That's what I'm getting.
It's numbers.
And that doesn't affect.
It's not naming the
anybody's
field, it just simply says this is the home of.
Yeah.
Nice big sign.
That's a good idea.
That's
Yeah.
actually a
That would
really
be a
good sign.
great idea.
Yeah, great
I like
idea.
that.
Some farmers probably got a big, huge boulder they want out of their field. You could use that to mount the sign.
Shit, somebody's gotta move that big rock.
Or a plaque that just goes on a building or something that's easily visible, but yeah, that's gonna last.
I'm good with that. I am. That
An outdoor.
kind of covers it all, to me.
That'd be nice.
Well, this is a discussion item. What I hear you saying is you'd like to see this on the agenda next week or next month as an action item?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we good.
We can spend some time over the next 4 weeks pondering this.
Think about it every night before we go to sleep.
Well, I'm driving my combine down the field.
There you go, Sharon. Keep that
Can't
puppy
wait for
moving.
that to go.
So we can move on to the next discussion item, I believe. Candidates filed for the school board in the orientation of new board members.
We have 4 candidates right now. We have Rick McDaniel is the sole candidate on the ballot for District 4. And we have 3 candidates for the 2 seats that are at large. Gary Berkland, Heather Ridgway, and Mark Schlick.
That's only 3.
3 for 2 seats in the at-large seat.
But Rick is all by himself, he's lonely.
I'm used to it.
So there's not a lot to discuss unless, at this time, there's something you'd like to talk about in terms of orientation of new members or something like that.
When is the voting day and where do we go?
Election day is Tuesday, November 3rd.
Will it be in Belmont?
Well, it's the regular ballot.
It's the second.
Second, November 2nd, it was the third last.
I thought we all messed up on the paper there for a second. I'm like,
No, I knew I did mess up because I read it right off of Thomas' booklet. It's the second.
It's the regular ballot, so it's gonna have, well, it won't just be school board candidates.
It'll be
City.
City, thank you. It'll be the city and of course, we'll have our ballot issue regarding,
Yes.
regarding the sales tax.
Right on.
Or the,
So that's all it is the school board and the city election.
right.
So everybody will have to come to Belmont.
Yep.
And if you're in a, then you can't vote for the city when you're out of town.
And we certainly hope everybody votes to approve our
It won't be at the
save
regular.
resolution.
Not for this.
Okay.
I don't think unless
It was
Goodell.
last time. But we had regular elections at the same time.
Right.
It was put on the ballot.
Mhm. See, I don't think Goodell will have
Okay.
Klemme might. I don't know. I don't know how they'll do it. Does Goodell have city elections coming up?
I don't know. They might, for councilman, and then also trustees.
just a comment, I might not be here for the new member orientation, but if we have new board members, I really think one of the most helpful things we ever did is when we met with Harry and sat down and talked about short-term, long-term goals of the district and build a team relationship with each other. Not that we always agree, you can tell that we don't, but just so that we have an understanding of our responsibilities as board members. And I think that was very helpful. We actually developed 3 big goals that we've been hanging on to for some time since that. And I think it's time to revisit those, and that would be nice to have. I don't know, is Harry still in business? Do you know?
Yes, you betcha.
Whoa, it'd be nice to have him
I
back.
know the association puts on a good training for new school board members. Because
Yeah.
when I first got on,
I went to him in Forest City.
Dan was, we went to it together.
Yeah, we did in Forest City.
Dan drove us up there. So,
And, you know, if we had that session with Harry and then had some good food, that would really be awesome.
absolutely.
Good food is the ticket.
Okay. Good luck to everybody that's running. I kind of wish we'd have
More,
more.
I do too.
More choices. Any election, it's good to have multiple choices. Okay, next we can move on to C, the Iowa Association of School Boards Annual Convention.
I think we've all found this to be a enjoyable and profitable and good learning experience down in Des Moines. It's the 17th, Wednesday the 17th is the pre-conference. The delegate assembly is in the morning. The afternoon is that has orientations for newly elected board members and some other pre-conference activities. But for the most part, the main convention is a single day, Thursday, November 18th. Now, currently, by the way, as it stands, we always meet at 7 p.m. on the third Thursday, and that's the third Thursday. So we would have to
move our meeting down. No, I'm sorry.
We would have to hurry back here to be here and in our seats by 7 p.m. that night, unless you'd like to talk about rescheduling that meeting, and that's something we can discuss again in the October meeting.
And November's when the board members are seated?
Yes, it is.
Last time, didn't we go like a night or two before, and then
We did.
they were up to snuff on that?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and
So like a Tuesday, maybe,
certainly could.
before the convention?
Should check on the activity calendar, see if anything's going on.
You have the activity calendar there? Is there anything on Tuesday, the 16th?
Should be between seasons.
Yeah, just before the Thanksgiving break.
Football will be over. I mean, they'll be practicing basketball.
Alright.
I don't think there'll be any game.
Yeah, these sports in here just a little bit, they finished up a little bit before the board meeting. They had a big victory over Lake Mills tonight.
Oh, crushed them, I'll bet. We got good teams here. Oh, where's Trish? Wait. She's hiding back there.
Pardon me? Tuesday, November 16th. Yeah, Trish has got 53 out for esports.
How many? 53?
There's a basketball girls varsity scrimmage.
Scrimmage.
Yeah, that's all that's
Okay.
there.
No competition, just a scrimmage that night for girls basketball.
So I would put it on the agenda for next month to vote on it on November 16th. Because of the convention.
Mm-hmm.
And Thelma, when do you have to know that people, when's
We-
the deadline for the convention?
We were looking for a guesstimate tonight, and we'd like a solid count at our next meeting in October.
Because isn't there an early,
There's a You save money.
Save money to get it in early.
So do we have anybody that thinks it's likely they'll be going to the convention on November 18th?
Maybe.
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 I like maybe.
All right, 4 maybes.
Maybe. I gotta check, I'll know, I can know within a couple of days, I just. gotta
5 definite maybes.
Schedule it, et cetera.
He's never gonna.
Because the
That
general
maybe is
assembly
like
starts like at
60%
8 o'clock, right, in the morning?
Not just-
Or is that? or-
Yes,
Schedule it, if there's 4 of the schedule, I can get it on.
I think so, generally speaking. So we usually get hotel rooms the night before,
Right.
so that we're ready to go right at Bushy Thursday morning.
Yeah, we don't want to be late for that opening breakfast.
That wasn't-
Yes, there was. They have rolls and all kinds of snacks down there.
That's
Bananas.
It's not breakfast.
That's not breakfast, that's junk.
Well, Thelma found a hotel that has a nice hot breakfast.
Oh, she does?
Oh, good.
Yeah, cancellation.
No.
No, that'd make my a little more firm on the yes, maybe.
All right.
You know, if the school doesn't get turned.
5 maybes and a likely yes. Or more yes.
Well, I don't want to be presumptuous because frankly,
Right.
if Heather gets elected, I think she should go, not me. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think it's very important for newly elected.
Absolutely.
That's,
Last time we went-
that's one of the most important things we
Yeah,
do
the
all
year
year, to
Ryan,
go to that
Ryan and I
convention.
went, I wanted to go. It was
Yeah.
definitely helpful for me.
It's an awesome event, and I learned something every time. Jim, you've been how many tons of them?
Yeah.
And they're worth the
They
effort
are.
to take the great speakers. The breakout sessions always add 1 or 2 pieces to the information that you have when you come home. The food is okay, and
Just okay.
We had a nice dinner the night before last.
we
night.
do
Yeah,
have
we
good
did.
dinners the night before. We find
If you're
some gin
included.
joint to go to, and
Ginger, you gave him something.
So we talked about speaking.
Oh, what?
So we talked about
You
speaking.
need to go with us. I did, I went last time.
yeah, you did.
Zip suits.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we're done with that,
Yeah.
board, comments for future agenda planning, anybody have anything they'd like to see on future agenda? I know we've already put a couple of things on for October,
Yeah.
so. No, not hearing anything. I would entertain a motion to adjourn, which I just got one.
You did.
Second. Okay, we're adjourned.
All right.
Thank you.
Out of here. Oh, I'll be home before 9.
Wow.
Absolutely.